Thank you very much for listening to this week's talk on the Sedra, the first Sedra in the fifth book of the Torah that we read this coming Shabbos of Devarim, Deuteronomy. And we are dedicating this learning to the safe and speedy release of all of the hostages in Gaza and the safety and success of all of the soldiers in the IDF. And this Shabbos is going to be the eve of Tisha B'Av. It's the 8th day of Av, and there are certain halachic consequences to this, but generally for the whole of Shabbos, until approximately an hour before the end of Shabbos, we do not observe any visible signs of mourning on this day, although that it certainly does have a quieter character than a Shabbos that is not on the eve of Tisha B'Av. And as we look at the name of the Sedra and the book, Devarim, which means words, I say use your words. And there are different elements that are going to bring us to that conclusion, give us guides as to what words to use. And the Sedra is Devarim, but the Haftorah that we read from the prophet Yeshayahu, Isaiah, is called Chazon. This is also called Shabbos Chazon, named after the Haftorah. And the word Chazon is translated as vision. And although most of the contents of the Haftorah are contents of rebuke and reprimand, the closing posuk is a positive, looking forward, anticipating a time when the redemption of the Jewish people is going to happen speedily and in our time. And this is consistent with the use of the word chazon, which is often used in the context of a positive vision, a positive outcome. And so this is a combination of words and of vision. Now, there's a famous Rabbi Levi Yitzchok of Berdichev, born in 1740, died in 1809, and he is very famous for always looking for the positive and finding in any kind of behavior a way to try to see how it could be argued. It's as if he was an advocate on behalf of the children of Israel in the heavenly court, and he would say to Hashem, look at your people, look how they're trying, even in circumstances where it would actually be very, very challenging to find some positive motivation for their actions and for their words. This is one of Rabbi Levi Yitzchok Berdichev's very famous character traits. And he talks of a very beautiful idea that every single Jew on Shabbos Chazon, on this special Shabbos that we are approaching, has a vision, is given an actual vision of the rebuilt city of Yerushalayim, of the Beis HaMikdash, which has been rebuilt, the rebuilt temple. And when we see that we're actually beholding the miracle of the building of the land of Israel, the returning of the Jews to the land of Israel over a period of many years, a sovereign state in the land of Israel, all of these things are absolute miracles and parts of prophecy that we have the privilege to witness. But when we actually learn this concept that each and every one of us will have this vision on Shabbos, that we are going to be able to see in our mind's eye the rebuilt city temple of Yerushalayim. And if I'm going to ask everybody honestly, as you go about your business on Shabbos, as you go about your activities, your Shabbos activities, so really, are you going to be seeing that vision inside your head? And when I thought of this idea, which was such a beautiful idea, I wanted to try to find a way to enable all of us to actually make it happen. And it reminded me of two similar situations where we are told that there are certain events happening that we might not, that there are definite, but we might not actually visibly see them. The first is this idea that a baby learns all of the Torah when they are in their mother's womb. And then as soon as they're born, they forget that Torah. But again, this concept is something that we need to work very hard. Why do we have to learn something in the womb that we're then going to forget? And this is an idea that sounds very nice, but how do we actually feel it and connect to it? And the third concept along this line is actually from a Mishnah in Ethics of Our Fathers, chapter 6, Mishnah 2. Omar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua, the son of Levi, said, B'chol yom v'yom, every single day, bas kol yotzeis mehar chorev umachrezes v'omeres. A heavenly voice comes out of Har Chorev, which is another way of referring to Mount Sinai, and declares and says, Oy lahem labrios, woe unto all the creations, to mankind, me'elbona shel Torah, for their contempt of Torah. Now, I'll stop there. So again, there is a heavenly voice that is calling out on a daily basis from Mount Sinai, that is riding the celestial airwaves. Do we hear it? Do we experience it? Do we feel it? It is there. But what is it that may prevent us from being sensitive to all of those things, to internalizing them and incorporating them? And I think that this is the challenge that we need to face as we go into this Tisha B'Av and we think about the special capacity of this Shabbos of Chazon. And there is if we use music as an example, or rather as a way to help us, perhaps give us another tool to achieve actually seeing this vision, actually remembering the Torah that we learnt in the room, actually hearing this divine voice calling out from Mount Sinai, and being sensitive to the nuances of all of these things, that we are all of us able, when if we're studying music, that we can, if you want to practice something, then you need to visualize it. You need to actually work very hard to think where your fingers need to go if you're playing the piano, and then your fingers are more likely to go there. And I think that we could actually use this as we are going to try to genuinely feel that vision, make it a concept that we are able to see in our mind's eye. But we need to work, we need to work, we need to create that, we need to create that image. We need to understand that the vision of the rebuilt Beis Hamikdash, the rebuilt temple, is a physical building, is a physical rebuilding, but it's also about understanding the lack of the presence of a place where we could connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the Holy One, blessed be He, in a physical way to take us to higher spiritual levels. And when we are thinking about what we are lacking in a world that very often seems to be going further and further away from the divine source, from the morals and the values that make us human, and we want instead to return, all of us, and whether it's us as the Jewish people, whether it's humanity, to the higher levels that human beings are capable of when they recognize the truth, when they stop dealing with lies and pandering and appeasing and behaving in ways that debase their humanity. So we, as individuals, as we are coming towards the climax of this 3-week period in the year 5785, that we are going to be able to visualize this particular vision of the rebuilt Bet HaMikdash. And then we are going to be able to connect to that Torah that we learned, because the 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 point of learning something that we are then going to be made to forget is that when you learn something a second time, it's always going to be something that is familiar at a deep point inside, because you have learnt it already once. And even though you may have forgotten it, on the superficial level, on the deeper level, there is still a memory, and that is something that we can connect to. And when we are able to drown out the distractions of certain things that take us away from our true goals in life, the noise that fills our head, that drowns out the sound of this heavenly voice that is calling to us from Har Chorev, from Mount Sinai, that we are able to clear these distractions, clear the modern day idols that we sometimes worship and fill our heads with, and instead hear that voice that is calling out to us. Let it inspire us to realize what we are losing, realize what we're missing. And so let us have that picture. Let us work on having that image in our head of a rebuilt Bet HaMikdash and everything that that's going to give us. And I think, so if we look at the idea of Devarim, of words, and we look at this idea of Chazon, of vision, and use them together and create words, express in words what it means to me, to what I feel is missing in my life, in the world at this point, that could be a better dwelling place for the Shekhinah, for Hashem, and actually write those down or verbalize them. Let those be my words, and let those words help me create the image of this rebuilt Bet HaMikdash. And then if we can go to the words that we say in the Amidah, in the standing prayer of morning, afternoon, and evening, which actually the word that contains the root, the same root as Chazon, and that is V'sechazena v'einenu b'shuvcha letzion barachamim. And it's translated as let our eyes witness your return to Zion in mercy, with compassion. And this sechazena contains the root, same root as chazon, as vision. So let our eyes have that vision of your return, Hashem, to Zion with mercy. And we look at what we have gone through as a nation over these past months and years, over all of the years of our history. And we say to Hashem, please, we have shown that we are connected to you, that we are sorry for the mistakes that we have made as individuals, as a nation, that we look at the words of the Torah, the words of rebuke that have brought us to where we are today. And now is the time, please Hashem, for you to return. We are returning, and we ask you to return with mercy, with rachamim, to Zion. Thank you very much for listening. Wishing everybody Shabbat Shalom and a meaningful and a meaningful fast. That, please God, we should actually not have to fast, because Mashiach will have come by then. And Bimhera v'yameinu, let us all say Amen. Thank you very much for listening.